A distinct pattern has emerged in recent retirement data. It directly contradicts the conventional financial advice given to older workers. For decades, the standard narrative has been clear. If you haven't built a massive nest egg by your mid-50s, you are out of luck. The common belief was that the mathematical power of compound interest has passed you by. People assume this leaves you with few viable options. However, an analysis of the current tax code and shifting savings structures reveals a completely different reality. The data shows a clear trend for individuals between the ages of 45 and 70. The final decade of your employment represents a unique, highly engineered window. During these years, you can systematically convert your peak earning power into rapid retirement recovery. The thesis is straightforward. For late-start retirees, your greatest financial asset is no longer the time you lost. Instead, it is the aggressive tax code levers available to you right now. In this video, we are going to examine the shifting mechanics of the 2026 retirement laws. We will analyze the specific math behind the new catch-up contribution structures, which are simply the extra amounts the government legally allows older workers to save. Finally, we will look at the actual numbers required to compress 20 years of traditional investing into less than a decade. If you want the data behind decisions like this instead of the usual noise, this is what the channel is built around. Subscribe. To understand how a late-start recovery is mathematically possible, we have to look first at the baseline contribution limits established for this year. According to current IRS guidelines for 2026, the standard contribution limit for a workplace 401k is $24,500. However, the tax code activates a standard catch-up provision for workers aged 50 and older. This allows an additional $8,000 pre-tax contribution. That brings the total permissible annual contribution to $32,500. The strongest objection to relying on this strategy is that saving $32,500 a year requires an incredibly high savings rate. Most households simply cannot sustain that level of saving. This is especially true with competing expenses like mortgages or lingering college tuition. That objection is valid. For an average earner, a $32,500 annual savings rate is statistically rare. But the data looks very different when we apply it to workers hitting their peak earning years. According to historical wage trajectories from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, individuals in the 55 to 64 age bracket achieve the highest median earnings of their careers. Take a professional earning $155,000 annually. For them, maxing out this limit represents a 21% savings rate. It is mathematically aggressive. Still, it is entirely within the realm of reality for high earners. These individuals can redirect their cash flow as household expenses naturally decrease in their later working years. This baseline reality becomes more complex, however, when we look at how those specific dollars are treated under the law this year. This brings us to a major structural shift implemented by the Secure Act 2.0. Under the 2026 mandate, a new rule kicks in if an employee's wages from the prior year exceeded $150,000. The IRS now explicitly requires that the $8,000 catch-up contribution be made with after-tax Roth dollars. This means you do not get an immediate tax break on that money today. Instead, it grows entirely tax-free for the future. The immediate criticism of this rule change is that it penalizes high-earning older workers. It strips away the upfront tax deduction on their catch-up contributions precisely when they are in their highest career tax bracket. On the surface, that is true. You do pay the taxes on that $8,000 today. But looking at the broader data reveals a significant finding. It is something conventional financial planning often overlooks for this age bracket. Forcing those catch-up dollars into a Roth account creates an insulated, tax-free bucket. According to tax integration models by the Center for Retirement Research, having a meaningful pool of Roth assets in retirement allows retirees to bypass a quiet IRS tax trap. That trap is provisional income. It is the formula the government uses to decide if your retirement earnings are taxable. If you pull too much from a traditional 401k, the IRS suddenly starts taxing your Social Security checks. By drawing from tax-free Roth balances instead, older adults can purposefully keep their taxable income below those thresholds. What appears to be a lost tax break today functions as a critical shield against systemic taxation tomorrow. This trajectory shifts even more dramatically when a worker crosses into the next age threshold. The data suggests that the tax code is increasingly built to favor late-stage compression rather than steady, lifelong accumulation. Upon reaching age 60, workers unlock a secondary tier within the Secure Act 2.0 framework. This is the Super Catch-Up provision. For 2026, this rule increases the catch-up limit to $11,250 for workers in their early 60s. When you stack this on top of the standard baseline, the math gets staggering. You can legally park $35,750 a year inside a workplace retirement account. The counterargument here is that 4 years is simply too short a period. Compound interest needs time. 4 years does not allow it to do any meaningful heavy lifting. If you only have a few years before you intend to exit the workforce, the returns on those new dollars will be marginal at best. That objection is mathematically accurate if you assume you will withdraw the money the day employment ends. But that is not how modern retirement works. Data from the Society of Actuaries indicates that a 65-year-old individual today has a median life expectancy stretching well into their 80s. The capital you inject in your early 60s does not sit in an account for just 4 years. It remains invested. It continues compounding tax-free for 15 to 20 years after you separate from your job. When you aggregate these independent layers of the tax code, the math becomes clear. Moving from the standard over 50 catch-up to the age 60 super catch-up demonstrates that a late start recovery does not require a miracle. It requires an optimization of your peak earnings. A worker entering their late 50s with a severely underfunded account is undeniably behind on the traditional timeline. But the data shows the system is structurally optimized to let you catch up late, provided you understand how to navigate the mandates. Ultimately, the evidence reveals a deeper truth. Retirement security is not a prize reserved solely for those who started saving in their 20s. The final decade of your career is not a period of passive waiting. It is a highly regulated, mathematically unique window designed for compressed accumulation. You cannot recover the time you lost, but the data proves that under the current law, your peak earning power can absolutely replace it.